The purpose of this screencast is to provide you with an overview of Unit 4 Research and Synthesis and to help you begin your planning and preparation for the final unit in freshman literacy. So the topic of our unit is making your voice heard, and what we want students to walk away from this unit is having a really strong understanding of what their community is, what are some issues in their community. We want them to understand what civic discourse is and how to partake in that. We want them to know that writing is empowerment and that they have the power to impact change. The literacy skills that we are teaching students revolve around effective and valid research, and so they will complete, as part of their mid-unit assessment, they will complete a research paper and then translate that into a call to action speech. So the unit starts off by talking about what is civic discourse. So this is an introductory lesson where students begin to brainstorm what parts of what community they are involved in, what is community, what are the different aspects of community, and then start to think about issues in the communities that they belong to, that they care about and believe that they could do something to impact change. We want students to understand that they can be a voice for change. And so once they have identified an issue that they're concerned about, they need to begin thinking about what are some potential solutions in solving this problem. We want to plant the seed that writing is empowerment and that you have the power to impact change in your community. As part of this lesson, students will engage in collaborative conversations, and that is one of our Power 10 literacy strategies. You will see collaborative conversations come up multiple times throughout this unit, so it's really important to think about how you're going to structure that so that it is productive. Students will need lots of help with processing during this specific lesson, and they will actually need you to model and think aloud about your own community and what are some issues that you would be wanting to write about if you were doing this assignment yourself. So after you have this introductory lesson, you move into the proposal. So in this lesson, you start looking at the actual documents that they'll be completing. You help students to understand the format of the paper that they'll be writing. So they look at the proposal blueprint, you look at the actual research paper and how it will be graded. You identify an issue. Each student is going to select an issue that they care about, where there's a real need for change and there's more than one perspective. Students will need a lot of teacher guidance in this and deciding what is the best topic and how to create a topic that they can continue for the entire unit. We're going to continue to push them to think first in their research and do some more brainstorming before they even begin their research. And then they'll have a conversation about issue viability and whether or not they have a strong issue that they can use for the entire rest of the school year. One other thing in this lesson is they will set up research buddy groups. So as part of this unit, students will be meeting with 3 to 4 students about every lesson to have a conversation about their research and where they're headed and to bounce ideas off of each other. So you'll want to think carefully about how you set up those research groups. So after you've identified the issue and have started to set up the research buddies and groups, you will go ahead and move into the actual research. So in lesson 4.3, you're going to go ahead and start by explaining some of the key components of research and what the main processes are for completing research. They will start to formulate research questions, and again, they'll need to see the teacher modeling this for them. They'll activate their prior knowledge about whatever topic that they selected, and you will help them understand that their research may change over the course of time. As they ask these questions and find the answers to the questions, they might be led in a slightly different direction than what they initially thought. So in between lesson 4.3 and 4.4, you're going to want to collaborate with the media specialist because they will be doing a lesson teaching students how to use EBSCOhost, and through EBSCOhost using procon.org and Points of View, and then some other resources that are available to students. So the media specialist will not be teaching a literacy lesson, but they'll be teaching a supplementary lesson that will benefit students. Lesson 4.4, you're just teaching them some of the other tools of research. You're teaching them proper citations, how to search, evaluating the credibility of a source, the currency of a source, and they will have the opportunity to, again, brainstorm in their research quads. So after you've gained an understanding of how to search, what to search for, you're going to shift into lesson 4.5, which is a 5-day lesson series. And what that will look like is you will give a short mini lesson at the beginning of class on a specific skill. They will create a research plan for the day with specific focus questions. They will have some structured research time, and then they will check in with their research buddies to share what they found and what it's making them think. And there's also opportunities for teacher conferencing. What we do not want this to look like is teachers simply sending kids to the library or to the lab for 5 days and doing research. By chunking things up into small chunks and holding them accountable for what they're doing, I think we're going to be setting our students up for success and keeping it as structured as possible so that they stay on track. After the research has been complete, students will move into the actual writing process. So they will take all of their research and start to organize their thoughts. And so they will do this by another graphic organizer. It's called Think First After the Research. And so they will put their thoughts and ideas, maybe discard some ideas that they're probably not going to use in the paper. Again, there is a sample here, and you will want to model this process for students. So it's a 1-day lesson, and you'll also talk again about plagiarism and what is and is not acceptable in regards to that. Next, you will take the research paper sort of chunk by chunk. The first day you'll talk about the introduction. And so in this lesson, again, you'll teach the introduction, how to hook the audience. You will model this for students. They will have time to work, and then they will get feedback from their peers in quads. Next, you'll move to the next section of the paper, which is the solution. And in this section, they will complete a what, why, how graphic organizer to get them thinking very concretely about their solution and determining if they've missed anything and need to go back. They will also learn about transitional devices, and we'll have some collaborative editing and revising time. Next, they will be writing to acknowledge the opposition. Again, the teacher will model this for them. They'll have work time, and then the opportunity to get feedback from their peers. Then you will complete the call to action and conclusion. You'll show them how to do this. There are some mini lessons on sentence structure, prepositions, just basically understanding what a call to action means and is, what it isn't. And then lesson 4.11 is a 3-day lesson where they will have time to have their final paper and do some revisions. So it's a 3-day lesson. For 1 day, they are revising based on sentence structure. The second time, it's just collaborative revisions with their peers. And day 3 would be when the teacher gives them some type of feedback. You'll have to play around with those lessons a little bit and make it work so that you have the opportunity to conference with every student and make sure that they are on a good path to completing their final draft. And you will definitely need computers for this lesson. Lesson 4.12, this is the final lesson before students will submit their research paper. This is when they're finalizing everything, doing any final corrections that they need to make before they submit the final paper, and then we'll do some reflection on their ability in this as well. So once the research paper is complete, you will shift gears to the end of unit assessment, which is the speech component. So they will use the same topic they've been researching for the entire quarter and create a call to action speech. Lesson 4.13 defines what a call to action speech is. You use the picture inductive model to view several examples of call to action speeches, and students will understand the characteristics of a call to action speech so that they can apply them to their own speech. Next, you'll move into speech preparation, where students begin to actually write their speech. You'll talk about choosing a prop, because that is a requirement for the speech, that they bring in something that can be used as an aid in their speech, and then you'll introduce them to several rhetorical devices. Lesson 4.15 gives them the opportunity to practice in small groups, get feedback from the teacher, feedback from peers, This would be a great opportunity to do some videotaping and reflection before they do their final project. And then lesson 4.16 is the actual speech. And so you'll have students give the speech. There is an accountability sheet for audience members. There is a rubric, and so students will use this. And then they'll do a final metacognitive response where they reflect on their own strengths, weaknesses, and growth before they complete their end of course assessment, which is another speech. So that in a nutshell explains Unit 4, Research and Synthesis. As you are doing some final planning, please think about computer usage. Make sure that you're getting to the computer lab to reserve your time. Think about how you're going to facilitate the writing process, because everyone writes at a different pace, and students really need to go through the entire process. Think about how you can shift the mindset for students to think first and spend some time in brainstorming before completing their final draft. And then also, how can you emphasize the idea that research is a process, it's fluid, and it may change a little bit along the way. Those are some of the main issues in planning Unit 4. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I will be more than happy to help. Thank you.